Hello YouTubers, this is Gold Standard 0924 coming at you with a Wrestling Reimagining series for you guys today. So we're going to pick up where we left off in our WCW 1998 Fantasy Rebooking series as we pick up where we left off from Slamboree and transition over to our June pay-per-view known as the Great American Bash. So yes, this was definitely one of WCW's biggest pay-per-view events of the year. Just going back to the Jim Crockett promotion days of the Four Horsemen and the invention of the War Games match that was significant in its early years. Judging from the prestige of that pay-per-view name and the history and the lineage behind it, try to book the best, hopefully the best card possible. And I believe, given the stacked talent that WCW had around this time, it should be enough to really get viewers getting their money's worth and to order this pay-per-view and try to book the best card possible, which I'm really sure WCW could around this time. Basically, if you watched my Slamboree event, or my fantasy card for Slamboree, so Sting and Bret Hart had their match, and after the match, Raven and his flock came out to attack both those two competitors. So there's like this all-out brawl ensuing in the ring, and this kind of leads to the ending of the show where Sting points his baseball bat towards Raven, and Raven and his flock are like staying on the aisle, and Raven's like pointing back towards Sting, with his finger and telling them that he still has his number. And Raven's still the U.S. champion by the end of the show, so this kind of really sets up a program between him and Sting, especially leading up to that main event scheduled for the Great American Bash. Yeah, so Raven, U.S. champion, so, he uses that excuse that he should be the number one contender. So we just kind of build it around that. And, Raven and Sting are basically going to be kind of like your main event match. So, but before we get more into detail with that, we're just going to kind of list the undercard matches. Without further ado, I'm just going to kind of go run the card. So we opened the match with Billy Kidman taking on Ultimo Dragon. Yeah, so Billy Kidman's still part of the flock. Ultimo Dragon's still a babyface. But I think this match itself, just judging from those two wrestlers, I think they could really put a really good match, if not great. WCW was really keen on giving these wrestlers, especially in the undercard, plenty of time to wrestle. Shouldn't be too much of a problem of a match. I think these guys can click, hopefully. And Billy Kidman's going to go over Ultimo Dragon. So basically, the Great American Bash is kind of centered around the flock and really, putting them over as a potentially top stable, other than the NWO. And Raven would cut some of these promos about the Great American Bash and what America stands for him, and just talking about all this topics about the land of the free and how that's dead and gone, and that Raven just doesn't believe in all that bull crap. Just something along those lines. And I think Raven, cut a couple of vignette promos, advertising the Great American Bash in actuality. Billy Kim is going to go over Ultimo Dragon, so really try to showcase the flock and try to put them over as a pretty threatening stable. So really kind of show that they're becoming more stronger and stronger, especially now that, ever since Raven became the U.S. champion. This is kind of really be the wake-up call for the lower tier flock members. And then the second match we have is Harlem Heat taking on the Public Enemy. And the winner of this bout would be the number one contenders for a shot at the tag titles down the road. Yeah, I haven't really showcased Harlem Heat a whole lot since I started booking this WCW 98 fantasy card. I really enjoyed Booker T as a singles competitor around this time, but I wasn't really sure what to do with him at this point. And, Stevie Ray's also, they're still a tag team. And I think what we could do here is have Booker T, just have random singles matches on television, especially on either Nitro, Thunder, or Saturday Night. And, Booker T's winning a lot of matches. So he's been kind of on a bit of a winning streak, especially mostly as a singles competitor. And then, Stevie Ray, on the other hand, is having his fair share of singles matches, but he's been kind of coming up short in a lot of them. So Stevie Ray's just kind of a little bit envy at Booker T because he's just becoming in like this talk of the town, sort of. I mean, he hasn't won championship belts just yet. That doesn't even involve the tag belts, but it's like he feels like Stevie's just not in the Booker's league, or like he's showing a bit of sense of doubt, and and he feels that Booker might soon alienate from Stevie Ray because he's because those two guys feel like they're entirely different leagues. But Stevie doesn't want to kind of alienate himself from his brother because he cares for him, and he doesn't he's just afraid that he's gonna kind of be isolated from him. And once Booker T branches out on his own, it's like, man, what am I gonna do? So he's kind of latching on to Booker T and trying to have both sides so they could be like singles competitors, but they also want to be tag team. They're facing Public Enemy, who they just lost the tag titles a couple months back. So just kind of give those two teams something to do, and I will have Harlem Heat go over here. I think you could do something where like Stevie Ray's got all the got the advantage as a legal man, and then like Booker T just unexpectedly tags in Stevie Ray, and Stevie Ray's like kind of like raising his eyebrows, like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "I had this," that kind of gesture that he has on his face. And regardless, Booker T takes over and basically helps win the match, for him and Stevie Ray. And despite the fact that they won that number one contender spot, Stevie's just like he's just a bit unsatisfied with the way it ended because that's not how he wanted to win the match. But Stevie Ray's just complaining over the littlest things. But Booker T's just trying to tell him, it's like, come on, all that matters is that we won the match. What more could you possibly ask? Yeah, so Harlem Heat will win the match, so they will get a tag title shots at a scheduled date. And then we have is a TV title defense, Chris Benoit, the champion, defending the belt against Eddie Guerrero. What more could I say? Benoit and Guerrero, I mean, these guys, I'm pretty sure that they could really tear the house down. And this would be also the time where Eddie and Chavo are kind of together, sort of. Like Chavo was basically Eddie's nephew, so there would be a lot of conflict going on between the two. The same stuff that we've seen, throughout '98, like we saw in actuality. So I thought that was actually some really cool stuff that they did together, and Eddie just, just kind of bullying the crap out of Chavo, and Chavo just can't really stand him, but and just a little bit of a conflict between the two. Um, yeah, so I liked some of the stuff that they did with Eddie and Chavo, so I would still have them, together. And Chris Benoit is the TV champion, so Eddie's just trying to kind of prove to Chavo that just really kind of be like the mentor to his Eddie Guerrero's obviously the mentor and Chavo's like the student kind of dynamic. And Eddie Guerrero's also obviously winning matches, so Eddie's just really showing Chavo how it's done, and Chavo just kind of feel a little bit like, man, I can't even win any matches, but Eddie's. Um, but yeah, so getting back to the TV title defense, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero. Um, Obviously, you give him plenty of time, and Chris Benoit will win the match. I think Chavo will get involved in this match, so that's going to play a big part in Eddie coming up short in the TV title match. So things, just a bit of a miscommunication, kind of gives Chris Benoit the advantage, and you could have like Benoit win with, I guess you could say maybe a diving headbutt or the crippler crossface that he was using. But either way, Benoit will walk out of the match as your TV champion. So it should be a really good match. Then we have a tag title bout between the champions, the Faces of Fear, defending against the NWO's Scott Norton and Bryan Adams. Um, Gosh, man, this I won't deny that this probably be the worst match on the card, but it's not going to be that very long. Faces of Fear to retain the tag titles. Then we have is Scott Steiner versus Lex Luger. Basically, the total package versus Big Papa Pump. Just these two wrestlers that are known for their emphasis on body physique. See, Scott Steiner's been on a tear, and he's been, crippling all of his opponents and really just being this outspoken trash talking wrestler that just doesn't even learn when to shut up. And Lex Luger is just basically just kind of sick to his stomach, seeing what's happened the past several months and seeing how Scott, sold out to the NWO, turning on his brother that he cared the most. And Luger's been fighting the NWO for the past 2 years, so I mean, he's just been he's just been on a wild ride, and he held the WCW World Title, and then he came up short, um, and now he has to deal with this freaking lunatic. Yeah, so they'll definitely have this match. This will definitely really be like the battle between the two muscle-bound wrestlers, and I don't want to like damage Lex Luger's credibility either, and I don't want to damage Scott Steiner's credibility as well. So the ending of the match would have Scott Steiner, doing the Steiner recliner, and Lex Luger, he's holding on to the ropes. There's been multiple times where Lex Luger's trying to fight out of the Steiner recliner. Like Lex Luger's just either fighting out of it, or he's finding a way to use some kind of object or leverage to break out of the submission hold. Steiner's going to lock in the Steiner recliner. Lex Luger, grabs the rope successfully, but despite that, Steiner's still holding on to it. Referee makes the 4 count and, basically calls a disqualification. And Luger wins, but, Steiner is just against the Steiner recliner, so it's like he feels like he's won the battle. It should be hopefully a solid match. Hopefully not too sloppy, though. Crossing my fingers there, but I do think maybe the build-up would be a lot more superior than the actual in-ring match. But yeah, so hopefully this could be a way to kind of really cement Scott Steiner, but also kind of keep Lex Luger relevant. And yeah, so I think this could do. So the feud's definitely continuing, judging from that DQ finish. Then we have is Goldberg taking on the Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah, so Goldberg's been on a hot winning streak, that he's been doing for the past several months, and by this point, by December '98, everyone's just up in arms about Goldberg and getting the biggest crowd pops that he's ever gotten. So people are starting to take notice of Goldberg around this time, and Macho Man, he's been kind of been on a downward spiral. He got kicked out of the NWO. He tried to go after the WCW World Title, despite the fact that, he's cut ties from that stable. But even despite that, even despite some help from Miss Elizabeth, Sting just somehow, some way just escaped from that match. He still walked out as still the world champion. And you notice, like, Macho Man didn't get booked for Slamboree, so I didn't explain that in the previous video, but I'm going to explain it right now. So the night after Spring Stampede, the Macho Man, he's just been on a rampage. He's just tearing down locker rooms. He's beating random jobbers up in the locker room, and, mostly backstage. And then this kind of gets to the point where J.J. Dillon hires these security guards to arrest Macho Man and and suspend him. Sometime after Slamboree, Macho Man comes back, and everyone, we're all thinking that as viewers that Randy Savage has kind of calmed down and that he's trying to, he went to this anger management class and he's just trying to control his temper, and he's just been through a lot of anxiety, for the past several months. It's just been a roller coaster ride for him. How Goldberg gets kind of dragged into this whole feud with the NWO is, Randy Savage, like I mentioned, he's been trashing a lot of, he's been trashing all over the backstage areas, and, he's using, some of the spray paint that he left behind from the NWO, so he's still holding he's still, carrying that spray paint can that he had from when he was with the NWO. He gets just annihilating everyone, and then Goldberg kind of takes notice because he's just looking all over just to see who trashed his locker room, and this would be around the time where Goldberg starts to hire security guards to monitor his room, his locker room. Goldberg, he's been also helping out other wrestlers that are getting attacked from the NWO. So, like especially like some of the lower tier wrestlers and even the upper mid card guys. So that's really where Goldberg starts, getting into the war with the NWO. So Goldberg's gonna definitely take notice and fight the Macho Man, and he's still wanting to get his hands on him for just trashing his stuff. And he's definitely going to win the match, so it won't be that long of a match either. And Randy Savage, I think, was taking time off to undergo knee surgery. So yeah, so definitely a perfect way to put Goldberg over. And I don't believe these two guys ever fought before, so I think this could be a really good match that probably never happened in real life, but I think this could really work well. Yeah, Goldberg to go over Randy Savage. Cruiserweight title bout, Dean Malenko defending the belt against Psychosis. Um, Dean Malenko won that cruiserweight title from Jericho. They have the rematch on Nitro. Maybe you could do like some kind of 2 out of 3 falls or something to kind of really close out the feud. And Malenko will definitely come out on top. And Psychosis is also kind of drawn in line. And Jericho's like, he had his rematch, so it's like since he lost, it's like he can't get his rematch back, especially now as long as Dean Malenko's still the champion. So that'll be also another match that was stipulated in the post Slamboree, like the Nitro after Slamboree, is when they have that blow off match. And Psychosis steps up, and Jericho's just trying to kind of whisper in Psychosis's ear, but in reality, Jericho's using Psychosis so that way he could get um, earn his title shot again to face whoever the cruiserweight champion is, as long as Dean Malenko isn't holding the belt. Malenko's fighting Psychosis. Hopefully, a pretty solid match, and Malenko will somehow pick up a victory. A 6-man tag, which is the original 3 founders of the NWO. So you have Hollywood Hogan, Scott Hall, and Kevin Nash. And they'd be feuding with WCW's own Bret Hart, Roddy Piper, and a special wrestling appearance from Kevin Greene. Basically, he shows up like every summer, starting from '96, '97, and now in '98. So yeah, he was part of the NFL. But yeah, so really try to make a big deal out of having the original 3 NWO guys teaming up together since Bash at the Beach '96, and to really kind of make a big deal about that. So Roddy Piper, he came up short in the previous pay-per-view, so he couldn't win the U.S. title belt, and Roddy Piper's been kind of contemplating the past several weeks whether he should retire, and maybe his role's done, and that he's realized that there's like a new group of superstars, a new group of young lions coming in to step up. So Roddy Piper feels like he doesn't really have any place anymore, and he feels about retiring, but he's still going to show up once in a while, especially as the interim commissioner. And then, the NWO would come out. Hogan does agree that, Piper's time is up and that he's a wash-up has-been who can't really accomplish as much as what the Hulkster can. Like, but Piper has never held a world championship. Like, he's never done the things that Hogan managed to accomplish. And, you may have tried to be in Hollywood. You may have tried to be an actor. You might have gotten all this TV time. You may have gotten all these, got these backstage privileges. Basically, the whole purpose is to really, really try to put a lot of heat on the NWO. And we have this 6-man tag match, and because it's the NWO, so they're gonna find a way to resort to dirty tactics. So Hogan's gonna nail a spray paint can onto Kevin Greene, let's say, because he's not gonna be around for very long. So like Bret Hart and Piper, they're trying to fend off the outsiders, and then Hogan just clubs Kevin Greene with the spray paint can and pins him for the 3. So the NWO comes out on top over Bret Hart and Piper and Kevin Greene. And then we have is our main event. So this is gonna be Raven's rules for the World Heavyweight Championship. So the So Sting's defending the belt against the U.S. champion going into it, Raven. And we also include a special guest enforcer who will be announced in the weeks building up to this main event. And I already explained a bit about what happened at the end of Slamboree. So basically, Raven, when it comes to Raven Sting, it's like, you just get this aura of that these two guys are very, that they've been doubted once before, that they've been, Sting and Raven, they're kind of going at each other's throats. And Raven's, for months and months since he was in WCW, that he was encouraging Sting to come join the flock so we could help him fight the NWO. Or at least what Raven, that would be contradictory. So Sting and Raven are going to have their match. Diamond Dallas Page will end up coming back. And, he's been absent for the 2 months that he was absent because, Raven just completely decimated him at Uncensored in that cage match. And, DDP's announced by J.J. Dillon that he will be the special guest enforcer in the weeks building up to the pay-per-view. And, DDP can't forget about, his, that he still got his eyes out on Raven because he's just can't stand what he did to him, and that he's just been getting these nightmares every time he sleeps, and and he's just always been waking up every time just thinking about it. And now he's willing to come back and really try to just kind of really set the score straight. And because Raven has his whole flock members, so DDP's going to try and make sure that the flock members don't get involved in the match in some way or form. But DDP is willing to kind of really say that he hasn't forget about what Raven did to him, and that he's just gonna and when it comes to Sting, Sting and DDP have this kind of alliance that has been going on for over a year, and that DDP feels that that he owes Sting a thank you for saving his ass after the many times he was decimated from the NWO, and DDP is also interested in that world title, so he's hasn't forgotten about that. So so Sting and Raven, they have the match. There'll be times where Raven seems like he has the match won, and just a lot of overbooking going on, and even Perry Saturn kind of plays a role as well, because in the weeks leading to this, after he got decimated from Goldberg, it's like he can't really stand Raven's antics and the way he's been treating his flock army, and that Saturn's encouraging that his teammates to really step up and to really open up and realize just how selfish Raven is, and really looking at him through a deeper meaning, and what his purpose is. But they aren't convinced. Raven's just telling Saturn that he's delusional. And then, basically Saturn comes out anyways, but, he looks like he's going to assist Raven. So, as long as Saturn's helping Raven, then Raven doesn't really have anything to complain to him about. So, but, Sting's going to lock in the Scorpion Deathlock on Raven, and, Raven's just trying to fight out of it. Saturn comes out, and Raven's telling Saturn to come in to stop it, but Raven's just looking at, or Saturn's looking at Raven, and then he's just like standing on the apron and then climbing back down, and Saturn is just like having this smirk on his face, and Raven's like, no, and Raven ends up submitting to the Scorpion Deathlock. So Sting will come out as still your WCW world champion. So so it's not like a unification or a title versus title. This is just the world heavyweight title being defended. That just to kind of clarify that. That's pretty much it for the June pay-per-view card. So let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are there some things that you liked or disliked, or things that you would have done differently? So just let me know, and stay tuned as we book the July pay-per-view Bash at the Beach, so stick around for that. And until next time, this is Gold Standard 0924 signing out.